you for coming back for another distance story time.
We're doing a little pre-dinner social distancing story time. And why did we decide to do it today, kids?
Because we got new books.
We got some new books.
Sorry, I'm in the background.
Yep, Stash is on the other side of the camera. You want to peek in, say hi? Oh, hey. And it's under McGee. Daddy's going to pick up some dinner. And, yeah, so we got some new books in the mail from our grandmother, or from the girls' grandmother. And the girls went to the library the other day, so that means more books. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so let's start.
And
We're going to read this one
Mommy,
first.
can I hand out the book?
You can hand out the books. I picked this one first. Be careful. We're going to start with this one. It's called, this one's called Kindergarten Hat by Janet Lawler, illustrated by Geraldine Rodriguez. We haven't read this one at all yet. It just came in the mail today. Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe it.
Okay, you really can believe it, Eve? It's pretty special.
Oh, I can't.
Oh, you can't. I don't want to go to kindergarten, Carlos said as he worked in his garden. I won't know anyone there. New friendships blossom in new places, said his mother. What if the bus gets lost, Carlos asked. It won't, said his mother. What if I can't find my teacher, he asked. You will, his mother replied. Carlos wasn't so sure. Does this sound kind of familiar? Yeah, was anyone out there a little bit nervous about going back to school for the first time? And it's been a long time since you guys have been in school. Stasha, I think you were a little bit nervous at first because you were starting a new school. You said, I don't know if I'm going to know anybody, right? Yeah. But then it ended up being pretty awesome, right?
The awesomest school I've ever been to.
The awesomest ever. Okay. Wow. We love all our schools for different reasons. The next day, the mail arrived while Carlos was practicing his moves. A letter for me, he cried. His mother read it to him. Dear Carlos, I hope you are having a fun summer. I will be your teacher this year. On the first day, I will wear a huge flowered hat. Please bring a flower for it and a big kindergarten smile. I can't wait to meet you, your teacher, Mrs. Bechet. P.S. Sometime soon, please send me a photo of you doing something that you love. Carlos spent 2 days deciding what photo to take and send. He liked building forts and playing soccer. He was doing that on the other page. Oh, and over here. And rooming cars. He liked drawing pictures and fiddling on Mom's phone. But most of all, he loved gardening. The fun for his fingers in the dirt, the surprise of seeds sprouting, and the brightness of the blooms. So Carlos posed in front of his flowers. With a soccer ball. Evie, do you get to plant things? Are you going to point out? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the soccer ball. Evie, at your school, do you get to do some gardening and play with the animals? Mm-hmm. Did you say the other day, don't come pick me up because what?
I wanted to sleep with the pig.
Mm-hmm. You wanted to stay and sleep with the pigs for the night.
Hey, didn't I tell you that?
You did tell me that. That's right. The night before school began, Carlos lay awake for a long time. When he finally fell asleep, he dreamed he was lost in a scary forest. The next morning, Carlos woke early, his tummy twisting and turning. But after breakfast, he rushed out and picked the most beautiful daisy for Mrs. Bechet. Carlos clutched his flower with both hands. Would Mrs. Bechet like it? His mother gave him a hug and walked him onto the bus. Carlos slid into an empty seat and gently set the daisy down. Chatter and laughter filled the air. Everyone seemed to know one another. A lot of the kids were so much bigger than him. Do you feel that way sometimes, that the kids are so much bigger than you?
Mm-mm.
No? When the bus swayed around a corner, he glanced back and saw a boy holding a rose. The boy smiled and nodded. Then Carlos heard a voice. He loves me not. He loves me not. An older girl was plucking petals off a daisy. Oh, Carlos looked down. His flower was gone. That's mine, he exclaimed, grabbing it back. I'm sorry, said the girl. I found it on the floor. It's ruined. Carlos squeezed his eyes tight. A tear fell. He tried poking the petals back into place, but they wouldn't stay. The bus pulled up at school. I'm really sorry, the girl said again. Have a good first day. Carlos slumped. The boy with the rose paused in the aisle. Come on, he encouraged, waving Carlos out. Carlos peered out the window. Then he saw it. The most magnificent, stupendous, tremendous hat, bouncing and dipping. The brim tipped up and he glimpsed a smiling lady, Mrs. Bechet. Children gathered around her. They offered her real flowers and ones made of silk, paper, and plastic. One kid even gave her a balloon blossom. Carlos took a deep breath. Then he stepped off the bus and stood under a tree. Mrs. Bechet flipped through photos, calling names. Her students lined up. Carlos, she called. Carlos Obredo? He gave a tiny wave. As Mrs. Bechet approached, Carlos dropped what was left of the daisy behind his back. Was he a little embarrassed? Hi, Carlos, she said. Welcome to kindergarten. He sniffled. I don't have a flower for you anymore. That's okay, Mrs. Bechet said. Carlos pointed to his photo. See that big daisy? That was for you. It was? Asked Mrs. Bechet. Carlos took a deep breath. Maybe we can pretend? What a good idea, said Mrs. Bechet. She nestled the picture smack in the middle of her hat. We're going to have a fun year. Let's go start our first day. Then Carlos gave Mrs. Bechet the other thing he was supposed to bring to school. A great, big kindergarten smile. That was a nice story about how something that seems scary can kind of get figured out.
Can we read my book?
I think Evie would like one of her books. Stasha, can you pick one of her books?
I think that's one.
That is. Okay, that's a great one. So this one is Sweety by Andrea Zuill.
Oh, can I quickly tell them the one we're going to read next?
Okay, well, after. Okay, so let's see what this one's about. Sweety was awkward, even for a naked mole rat. Please note that naked mole rats are born without fur, but not without the love of clothes. The illustrator is grateful for this since she didn't have to draw a bunch of highly embarrassing pictures. Is that kind of a joke? Mm-hmm. Do you think the moles wear clothes?
No.
Do you know any animals that wear clothes?
No.
Stop it. I guess sometimes Aunt Di-Di's dog does, right? Does Mitzi have some costumes? Yeah. Well, aren't you Grandma's little square peg? Huh? Her own grandmother called her a little square peg. Sweety didn't exactly know what that meant. But she did know that she didn't always fit in. Do you ever feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
Sweety could be intense. My doll's name is Ellie. She likes cupcakes. My doll is David. My grandma gave him to me. This is Sunshine. She wants to be a doctor. Who's your doll, Sweety? This is Warrior Princess Zorna, friend of the friendless, destroyer of evil, lover of chocolate beet cake with cream cheese frosting. Her favorite color is aubergine, and my mom made her for me. Whew, that's kind of a lot coming at you. I can see what they mean. And people found her hobbies a bit bizarre. Would you like to come over to my house and help me identify fungi? No, thank you. But do we know anyone who likes to identify fungi? Mm-mm. Well, do you know what fungi is? Mm-hmm. It's mushrooms. Do we know anybody who likes to go outside and identify mushrooms? Your Auntie Di-Di.
For us?
Yeah,
Back to her.
Yeah, occasionally Sweety did things that others had a hard time comprehending. Like the day she gave her book report through interpretive dance. Well, that's very creative. She did a dance about her book. What book is this? There were times when Sweety wondered what it would be like to be someone else. Someone like Deb. Deb always said the right thing and had stylish friends. Best of all, she had beautiful hair. Sweety wanted hair like Deb's. See, that's Deb. Oh, and that's Deb's hair. She has one piece of hair because she's a naked mole rat. she thought maybe she should try a wig. Feels itchy. Then there were times when Sweety just felt like being Sweety. Reading a book, hanging out in her room. The best days were when Aunt Ruth visited. Aunt Ruth understood Sweety perfectly. She didn't think Sweety's hobbies were weird. Really, not a single one. Is Aunt Ruth dancing with her?
Doing weird dances.
Yeah, doing interpretive dances, just however the music's moving her, you know? Sweety and her aunt loved going through old family photo albums. Sweety especially liked the pictures of her mom and her aunt when they were her age. It says Anne and Ruth, 2 sassy cowgirls. Ruth and Anne, 1 month old. Ruth, age 8. Ruth, age 17. Ruth, age 8. Who does Ruth look kind of like? Does she look kind of like Sweety? On her most recent visit, Aunt Ruth talked about how she was called a square peg when she was young. Sweety was starting to understand what it meant. What do you think it might mean?
I don't know.
Maybe someone that's just a little bit different? Yeah. Aunt Ruth said that being different was one of the best things about her life, and that if you stayed true to yourself, you'd find your people. That made Sweety think. Were there really people out there for her? How would they recognize her? How would she recognize them? Was there a secret handshake she'd have to learn? She really hoped there was a secret handshake. Sweety wondered how many times she'd been close to one of her people and not even known it. What if she stepped it up a notch? Would her people be able to spot her more easily?
My name is Sweety. I like dancing, mushrooms, and rainy days. You too? Need to find your people? Maybe we're a match. Flyers available.
Sweety! Or would she just seem desperate? For now, she'd trust Aunt Ruth, continue to do her favorite things, and be herself. Maybe she'd try a couple of new hobbies just for fun. Wow, very nice, Sweety. After all, being Sweety wasn't so bad. Oh, they're beautiful mushrooms, aren't they? Yeah. In fact, it could be pretty awesome. Well, aren't you a fuzzy little caterpillar? And who knew when somebody else pretty awesome might come along? Oh my gosh, isn't that the cutest little caterpillar? My name is Sandy. Your shirt is wonderful. I wouldn't mind having a shirt with a mushroom on it. I love mushrooms. My favorite is Gyromithra esculenta. It looks like a brain.
What does?
That kind of mushroom that she's talking about. Do you think Sweety's finding her people? Hi, Sandy. My name's Sweety. Would you like to learn a secret handshake? Yes, thank you. You know what? That kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. I was kind of a weird kid who liked some weird stuff, and I thought it was pretty awesome being weird. Okay, next one. Speaking of secret handshakes and secret clubs, the Secret Rhino Society. We got this one at the library. We read this one the other night. I thought it was a good one. Oh boy. Fran, Hudson, and Jean each had one thing in common. Each of them wanted to be, what do you think they wanted to be?
A rhino.
A rhino. A rhinoceros.
Why powerless?
Hudson loved how fast they could charge. Fran loved how intimidating they were. Jean was especially fond of their unbreakable horns. The horns are. So the three friends formed a secret society. Their first order of business was to build a clubhouse where they could meet up and admire their favorite animal. Hudson did most of the construction. Fran prepared the dirt for the garden. And Jean provided light when they worked into the night. Or ate sandwiches together. So they all had different things they could be good at, right?
No, they don't.
When the clubhouse was complete, they called it the Rhinocer House. Get it? Rhinocer House? They made themselves paper horns so that they could look and feel more like rhinoceroses. Some horns fit better than others. Thud. It's kind of hard for an earthworm to hold up a horn, right? Hudson led the meetings. Fran wrote meeting notes with mud, and Jean kept things bright while doing their best not to catch their paper horn on fire.
Evie, can you please move? Why can't they
Although
catch the
sometimes
paper horn on fire?
Sometimes it happened. Well, a light bulb is very hot, and hot things can light paper on fire. And, then, if you're a light bulb, your paper horn starts smoking. At their third meeting, there was a knock at the door. They were a little embarrassed that they were wearing paper horns, so Hudson called out, "This is a private club. I'm afraid there isn't room for any other members. Another time, perhaps." But the knocking continued. And when the clubhouse began to shake, he opened the door, and it was...
A rhinoceros.
Rhinoceros. What are the chances? "Which one of you is Fran? Can you sign here, please?" asked the rhinoceros. "Wait, what? What? Why are you wearing that outfit?" stammered Hudson. "This is what I always wear," declared the rhinoceros, who said her name was Ivy. "I have your delivery." "Before you go," asked Hudson, "can't you show us how to charge? Or snort? Or sharpen our horns?" "I'm a gardener," Ivy replied. "I work at a garden store and I deliver plants." "Did I get your order wrong?" she asked anxiously. "No," replied Hudson. You are just not what we expected a rhinoceros to be." "I'm sorry you're disappointed," said Ivy. "Anyway, you folks are going to have a really beautiful garden." Imagining how hungry she must be after a long day of work, the friends invited the rhinoceros to stay for cheese and pickle sandwiches. As they ate, Ivy shared gardening stories and soaked her hooves in a soothing mud mixture specially prepared by Fran. "I'm having such a wonderful time," offered Ivy. "Have you ever thought of opening your own sandwich shop?" The friends agreed that what they loved most about having a secret society was making and sharing sandwiches. They wondered what it might be like to invite others along, so they got to work. Hudson put together the sandwich menu. Fran perfected several new mud recipes. Jean played with mood lighting. And Ivy did the landscaping. Careful with the box, okay? The next week, they opened their new sandwich shop. Doesn't that look pretty delicious? Yeah, I think so too. And everyone came. So did they all find out that maybe there was something that they could do that was kind of special and they didn't need to pretend to be rhinoceroses? But it did bring them together, so that was pretty cool.
Now I want to do this one.
Okay, now we're going to do another new book. This one is called Rescuing Mrs. Birdley, Back to School Where She Belongs, written by Aaron Reynolds, illustrated by Emma Reynolds.
This is the next one.
Okay, great. All right, let's see.
I'm actually going to switch it.
Miranda Montgomery was an animal expert. She watched the Nature Joe animal show every single day. Nature Joe was wildly fantastic. He rescued animals of every size, from lemurs to lions. Sometimes the animals got quite aggressive. But they were always happy once Nature Joe returned them to their natural habitat. So when Miranda saw her teacher at the grocery store, she knew just what to do. What do you think she's going to do?
I don't know.
Mrs. Birdley didn't belong in a grocery store. She must have gotten loose from her classroom and wandered off. Mrs. Birdley wasn't getting aggressive yet, but Miranda was sure she would be much happier back in her natural habitat. Luckily, Miranda Montgomery had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Miranda had once seen Nature Joe dig a hole and line it with cozy pillows to rescue a sick Bengal tiger. Oh my goodness. Is she jackhammering in the grocery store?
I think so.
But Mrs. Birdley was sly. She avoided the hole completely. She just walked right over it. Oh, excuse me. Unfortunately, the deli man was not as sly. She captured the deli man. Miranda needed bait, and she knew the perfect bait to use, blueberry yogurt. Do you like blueberry yogurt, Evie? Yeah, me too.
What's blueberry yogurt bait? What's he going to use bait for?
Well, she's going to use blueberry yogurt to attract Mrs. Birdley, because Mrs. Birdley must like blueberry yogurt. Let's see what happens. It was all Mrs. Birdley ever ate, back in her natural habitat. Miranda knew lost creatures were sometimes skittish at first, but Mrs. Birdley couldn't resist the scent of fruity, low-calorie goodness. Miranda sprung her trap, but Mrs. Birdley could move faster than Miranda expected. The deli guy rescued her. He's like, "You forgot your wallet, lady." Oh boy. On Nature Joe's Small Rodents special, he found a little lost weasel searching for food. He caught the weasel in a cage, took it to a meadow, and set it free. The weasel scampered happily away. So Miranda knew firsthand that the key to catching a quick animal was slow and steady movements. While Mrs. Birdley was distracted by the alfalfa sprouts, Miranda made her move. Miranda's teacher squealed the whole way back to school, just like that little lost weasel. Miranda knew Mrs. Birdley would be much happier back where she belonged, Mrs. Birdley's class. She didn't look happy right now, but she was probably just shaken up from her little adventure. Being locked safe and sound in her classroom all weekend would settle her right down. Miranda Montgomery went home feeling wildly fantastic, just like Nature Joe. Until Sunday. That's when she saw her principal, Mr. Canklesnout, in the home improvement store. There he was, just shuffling down the lawnmower aisle. Mr. Canklesnout wasn't getting aggressive yet. Luckily, Miranda Montgomery had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Poor Mr. Canklesnout. He doesn't know what's coming.
Next book.
Okay, next book is, here's the last of the new books, The Little Taco Truck by Tanya Valentine and Jorge Martin. And let me tell you, I think this is an appropriate book, because what time is it almost? Dinner time.
And movie time.
And family movie night. But
Do
you know what I ordered for dinner?
What?
Tuna tacos.
Oh.
Perfect book, dudes.
Because it's a taco book.
Because it's a taco book.
And Mommy ordered the taco book.
And I'm going to eat some tacos. Ooh.
Stop, Mom.
Okay, no one likes my song. Got it. Message received.
Like
In a busy... watch out, dudes. In a busy corner of the big city, new buildings began to rise.
Wait. See.
Little taco truck. Evie, can you be quiet, please? And each day, Little Taco Truck loved serving up tasty tacos to the hungry workers on Union Street. But one day when Little Taco... Evie, shh. But one day when Little Taco Truck arrived, he was surprised to see another truck parked in his spot. Hola, Miss Fall. Little Taco Truck tried to sound the words out on the side of the other truck. Falafel, she said, smiling. Are you lost? He asked. Oh, no, Miss Falafel said. I'm here to serve delicious falafel sandwiches. The smell of her fresh-baked pita bread and crunchy chickpea fritters floated through the air. Oh, I can smell it. Can you smell it? Little Taco Truck's engine rumbled. He knew he should share his street. But what if people love falafel more than tacos, he worried. He secretly hoped Miss Falafel would find a street of her own the next day. But the next day, Miss Falafel was parked in his space again, and she had brought friends. Little Taco Truck crept down the street looking for a place to park. There they have tapas. That's a Spanish word that kind of means hors d'oeuvres, small little things, finger foods. And hors d'oeuvre is a French word that means finger foods. Get your gumbo, whooped Jumbo Gumbo. Gumbo? Little taco truck shouted. Of course, Jumbo Gumbo said. Only a big truck like me can handle the big flavor of spicy Cajun seafood stew. Little taco truck's tires sagged. How will people even see a little truck like me next to all these big trucks, he worried. If you need a place to park, Jumbo Gumbo shouted, look behind Annie. Little taco truck inched up the street toward a brand new bright yellow truck. Are you Annie? He asked. Annie's arepas, she said, sparkling in the sunlight. Everyone loves my warm cornbread sandwiches. Little taco truck sighed. What if no one notices me next to a shiny new truck like Annie? The next day, even more food trucks lined Union Street. Little taco truck tried to squeeze into the last tiny space when... Bump. Hello, gelato. Ouch! A big pink truck shouted. I'm sorry, little taco truck said. The street is so crowded with falafel and gumbo and arepas and... Hello, gelato? He read on the side of the truck. Fantastico! Hello, gelato said. No! Not fantastic, little taco truck cried. Little taco truck swished his wipers to hide his tears as he drove away. On his way home, he hatched a plan. If I get to the city first, he thought, no one can take my parking spot. So in the dark of night, little taco truck returned to the quiet city, parked in his favorite spot, and fell sound asleep. In the bright light of day, he was startled awake as the other trucks arrived. Working up his courage, little taco truck blinked his lights, puffed up his tires, and said, This is my spot. I'm sorry we didn't make room for you yesterday, little taco truck, said Miss Falafel. Me too, said Annie. We can all fit in if we squeeze. I can move my tables onto the sidewalk. And I can move my signs out of the way, Jumbo Gumbo shouted. Hello Gelato cheered when he arrived. You found the perfect spot. I did, little taco truck happily tooted his horn. Beep, beep. It was right here all along. And when Oodles of Noodles arrived the next day, they made room for her, too.
There you go.
Oodles of Noodles is what I had for dinner last night. Did I make ramen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, how about a little science for you? Evie, sweetheart, if you're going to keep playing, can you walk over so you're not making so much noise? Newton and Curie, the science squirrels. From the best-selling author of Library Mouse, Daniel Kirk. Hey, Evie, you got to go over there if you're going to be talking, okay? Newton was sitting under a tree when an apple bounced off his head. Why did that apple fall down and not up, he asked himself. From that moment on, the little squirrel began to wonder how the world worked. I wonder why that swing works the way it does, Newton said to his little sister, Curie, as they watched children on the school playground. I don't know, said Curie. Let's go find some nuts to eat. I'm hungry. Oh, all right, Newton said, but he couldn't stop thinking about the swing.
We can move.
Later that day, Newton jumped up on the swing, the way he'd seen the children do. He sat for a while, wriggling and rocking, but the swing didn't move. What are you doing? Asked Curie. Don't you wonder why a swing goes back and forth? Newton asked. Why does it go so high sometimes? And why does it work so easily for the children when it doesn't work for me? Let's not think about that now, Curie said. Let's play tag. The next day, Newton passed by a classroom window. Today we'll learn about simple machines, the teacher said. We'll study gravity and force, and we'll learn about experiments. Oh. As Newton listened, he had an idea. He decided to try an experiment of his own. Do any of you know how to do experiments? Do you know how to do experiments, Stasha? Yeah, you like to do experiments, don't you? And you write down the different ways you're going to test things? That's right. Newton looked around his neighborhood until he found what he needed to create his own swing. What are you doing now? Asked Curie. I'm testing an idea, Newton said. That's called an experiment. Pumping my legs gives me the force to move forward and see how gravity brings me back down again. I want to try, Curie said. And she did. What's this? Asked a pair of robins who were building a nest in the tree. It's science, said Newton. Curie laughed. And it's fun. The next day, Newton watched some children rocking up and down on the seesaw. He longed to try it for himself. At dusk, he went and sat down on one edge of the board. What are you doing now? Asked Curie. Come and sit on the other side, Newton said. We'll do an experiment. Curie sat down, but the board didn't budge. So she jumped up and down, but there wasn't enough force to make the seesaw move. What's the problem?
They're too small.
They're too small.
Yeah.
It's kid-sized, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The board is too heavy and we don't weigh enough, said Newton. Humans weigh more than squirrels, so they have more mass. Curie frowned. Maybe science isn't for squirrels. In the morning, Newton hurried to the branch above the classroom window. He studied the whiteboard and listened to the teacher explain another simple machine. Newton could see that a lever and a fulcrum looked a lot like a seesaw. That gave him an idea. Newton searched his neighborhood until he found what he needed for a squirrel-sized seesaw. I bet you're making something, said Curie. Newton smiled. It's another experiment. The board is a lever which increases the force we need to go up and down. The rock is for balance. It's called a fulcrum. If we put the rock at the center of the board, we can balance our weights on either end. Gravity pulls us down and we use the force of our legs to push off again. Whee, said Curie. And it's fun. That does look like fun, said one of the robins. It is, cried Newton. How's your nest? It's all finished, said the bird, and we have 4 beautiful eggs. You should come take a look. Newton and Curie went to visit the birds in the tree. You're so lucky you can fly, Curie said. Gravity doesn't mean anything to you. Gravity affects everyone, Newton said. The next morning, Newton and Curie went to listen at the classroom window. With a wheel and a rope, the teacher said, you can make a pulley. A pulley makes it easier to lift heavy things. Curie said, if we had something big to move, that simple machine would be great. But I can carry everything I need in my own paws. I wonder what they're going to do with this information. That afternoon, Newton and Curie came to watch the children play. But it was a windy day, so the children stayed indoors. Just as the squirrels turned to go, they heard a terrible cracking sound. A big branch snapped and toppled to the ground. Help, cried the robins. Our nest has fallen. Our eggs are all right, the birds cried, but we've got to get them back in the tree where they'll be safe. I've got an idea, Newton said. Just wait here. What do you think his idea is?
He's going to use the pulley idea.
Oh, the pulley idea. Newton and Curie raced to the classroom window, which was open just a crack. The children were off at lunch, but they could come back at any moment. We could use those spools and some string to make a pulley, Newton said. But how are we going to get in there? I've got an idea, said Curie. Let's find a stick to use as a lever, like the seesaw, and pry the window open so that we can get inside. The squirrels found a piece of branch and slid one end into the opening. They jumped and jumped on the lever until the window opened just enough for them to scramble inside and get the supplies they needed. Back in the tree, Newton fit the spool over a small but sturdy branch. Curie bundled the bird's nest into a cloth and tied it to a long piece of strong string. We're making a pulley, Newton said to the birds as he pulled the end of the string up the trunk. We'll use it to get your nest back into the tree. Please, be careful, cried the birds. Once he'd wrapped the string around the spool, Newton grasped the free end of the string and jumped from the branch. Gravity pulled him down, but it wasn't good enough. The nest was too heavy. I know what to do, Curie said, and she jumped onto Newton's back. Together, the 2 squirrels weighed enough to pull the string to the ground and lift the bird's nest into the tree. The robins nudged their nest into a safe place. Our experiment was a success, cried Curie. The pulley worked, Newton shouted. Soon your eggs will be ready to hatch, Curie said, and your babies will learn to fly. I wonder how flying defies gravity, Curie wondered. Time for a new experiment, Newton said. Science is fun. All right, we're going to read one last book before we eat dinner. Daddy's unpacking it and putting it on the table. Late for School, written by Mike Reiss, illustrated by Michael Austin. My name is Smitty. Why am I making a face like that, Steph? Because what? Can you sit up? Can you come here and tell us?
When I was in my mother's belly, they didn't know if I was a girl or boy. Mm-hmm. So they called me Smitty because my aunt's dog was named.
Your aunt's dog was named Claudette. That has very little to do with it. But we thought that Smitty was a name that could be either a girl or a boy. And does your auntie Stop it. Does your auntie Di still call you Smitty to this day?
Yeah.
Yes, she does. Oh boy, now this is all crooked stuff. All right. All right, let's get back to this Late for School book. One last book before dinner. My name is Evie, sweetheart. Hey Evie, if you're gonna talk, you're gonna have to go to the other side of the room. My name is Smitty. I come from the city, and I live by one simple rule. I may not be smartest, no athlete, no artist, but I've never been late for school. I woke up at 8 in a terrible state, sure that I'd missed my carpool, but I wasn't worried. I knew if I hurried, I wouldn't be late for school. Before I got far, my shoes stuck in tar, which was hot, as sticky as gruel. It's just 50 blocks. I can walk in my socks, I thought as I headed for school. I didn't complain when it started to rain, and then when the weather turned cool. Whole snowmen came down, went splat on the ground, but I wouldn't be late for school. When the snow turned to rain, the streets wouldn't drain, Times Square filled up like a pool. But my backpack and coat made an excellent boat, and I sailed across the square toward my school. Halfway through my sail, I ran into a whale, and wherever I paddled, he followed me. I said, "Do you mind? I'm running behind." But before I could finish, he swallowed me. Inside of the whale was a rusty old pail, a ladder, some books, and a stool. I climbed to his spout and squeezed my way out. I could not be late for school. I ran for a bus that was covered with dust, and the wheel was a gruesome green ghoul. And all of the riders were poisonous spiders, so I kept right on walking to school. A gigantic ape had made an escape from his cage at the Central Park Zoo. I reached in my sack and gave him a snack because I couldn't be late for school. A robot from Mars was picking up cars and gulping down all of their fuel. He gobbled up Hyundais like butterscotch sundaes. I ran off to school. Is this a funny poem? A bony T-Rex was coming down Lex. It saw me and started to drool. I said, "You can eat me, but you'll have to meet me at 3 when I get out of school." On the corner of 3rd, a humongous bird picked me up in its beak sharp and cruel. I started to squirm and said, "Hey, I'm no worm. Put me down there by my school." At school, I was shocked to see the place locked. I felt like a bit of a fool. Today was a Sunday. Stay home and have fun day. I was a day early for school. So I sat on the lawn and let out a yawn. I figured I'd just wait for school. Then I fell fast asleep, and my sleep was quite deep. And that's why I'm so late for school. Uh-oh. Do you know anyone that was late for school last week, Stasha?
I was.
Yeah. Do we need to get up a little bit earlier on Fridays when there are 2 kids to drop off? We do.
Because I was really late for school.
You were 8 minutes late for school.
I was
all
8
right.
minutes late for school.
That is all we've got for you today. What do you say, Evie?
Thank you.
Ow!
Thanks for tuning in to Social Distancing Story Time. It's just a stubbed toe. Don't worry, we don't have to amputate. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye.